Oil prices rise as OPEC Plus members extend their decision of cutting crude supplies amid global uncertainty and weak demand. We look at the US economy, where it stands and how it will perform once a new president is elected. And a $3.5 billion Chinese port in Peru is about to begin operations, and the West seems very nervous about it. We'll tell you why. Hello, I'm Taiba Aydin with the latest business and finance news here on TRT World. Oil prices jumped on Monday after oil-producing nations delayed a planned output hike for December amid soft demand and rising supply. International benchmark Brent futures rose by $1.25 or about 1.7% in early trading to more than $74.35 a barrel, while the US West Texas Intermediate climbed 1.8% towards $71 a barrel. That's as the Organization of Oil-Producing Countries and its allies, including Russia, extending their 2.2 million barrel per day cut for another month, after already having delayed the increase from November. Renewed tensions in the Middle East further boosted oil prices as Iran has intensified warnings against Israel. Let's get more on this now with Rafet Zahidov. He's an independent market analyst in Istanbul. Good to have you on the program, Rafet. Now, why have OPEC and its allies decided to extend production cuts?
Well, the OPEC and allies have decided to expand the production cuts due to reducing oil prices since the mid-2022. So they have to cope these declining price by cutting production, which will increase the oil prices in the future. But there are many other factors that could be a cause for this as well, for the production cost. One reason is to support the OPEC allies. Some of the OPEC allies depend heavily on the oil revenue they receive. So in order to cut the production, this will increase the oil prices and therefore support the OPEC allied countries as well. Adding on, another reason could be the increasing oil supply by the non-OPEC countries, such as the US. The US has increased some of its oil production in the recent years. So they have to counterbalance this in order to basically reduce the production.
Now, last week we saw oil prices decline by around 3 to 4%. How will this move by OPEC Plus support prices?
Well, as we talked, the reduction in the production will increase the oil prices. There has been a recent decline, but this could be increased due to the production costs. But there are many other factors that could also have an effect on the oil price. One factor could be the conflicts in the Middle East. This can have a direct effect on the oil price going forward, can have a basic going up or going down as well. Another main factor that could have an effect on the oil price is the upcoming US elections. As there's a great uncertainty by the US elections that's going to happen tomorrow, this could further decrease or increase the oil price as well.
All right, Rafet Zahidov, we will have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, in the US, the state of Michigan has long been at the heart of America's auto industry. The future of this vital sector is a key issue on the campaign trail. Jafar Hasnain reports from Detroit.
The Packard plant, once a shining beacon of American innovation, now stands as a haunting reminder of the decline of traditional manufacturing in Detroit. Built in 1903, it was the most advanced of its time, producing luxury cars and even military engines during World War II. This plant is sprawled across 40 acres and symbolized Michigan's automotive might. But today, it tells a very different story, one of decline and transformation. Vice President Kamala Harris envisions Michigan as a leader in vehicle production and EVs backed by federal investment. Donald Trump, on the other hand, calls for a return to traditional manufacturing to revive the industry's former glory.
But year after year, globalist politicians like Kamala Harris sold you out and let other countries loot and pillage and plunder your wealth and our jobs and our American dreams. 40% of Michigan auto jobs were annihilated after NAFTA.
Michigan residents have heard promises of revival before, but the question of which future to embrace lingers.
He said he would was the only one who could bring back America's manufacturing jobs. Remember that? And then America lost nearly 200,000 manufacturing jobs when he was president, including tens of thousands of jobs in Michigan.
The stakes in Michigan are high, with over 1 million jobs connected to the auto industry. Analysts argue that the industry's transformation is already underway, largely shaped by the aftermath of the 2008 recession and the global financial crisis.
The auto industry today is really much a creature of the recession in 2008 and the collapse of Lehman. When the global financial crisis happened, the U.S. auto industry went into bankruptcy, and they were able to kind of return to profitability by restructuring a lot of their contracts with labor that were very, very generous.
As the EV revolution promises Michigan a new chapter, some residents see opportunity in change.
So I think the point of view coming from the Democratic Party or from Kamala Harris or Biden administrations will be better for our future.
Not all residents agree. For some, the cost of electric vehicles and the lack of infrastructure pose serious challenges to this green vision.
Combustible engines are still worthy and they're still economically affordable. A EV vehicle could cost you anywhere near $70,000, $80,000 versus a combustible engine in a vehicle could cost you $10,000 to $20,000.
Standing here, it's hard not to think about Michigan's past and its future. The auto industry built this estate, and now the decision made in these elections will shape its next chapter. Will Michigan lead the way in electric vehicles or fight to preserve its manufacturing roots? Jafar Hassan, TRT World, Detroit, Michigan.
Now, the US is just days away from announcing its new president, but what economic conditions will the incoming leader inherit? Here's a snapshot of the current US economy.
The U.S. economy saw 2.8% growth in Q3 this year, slightly below the historical average, but marking a strong end to the year amid global uncertainties. Consumer confidence surged in October, marking the largest increase since 2021, with renewed optimism about income and job prospects. The U.S. trade deficit has expanded since October 2022, putting additional strain on economic growth. Government debt levels remain high. The U.S. deficit hit $1.8 trillion in 2024, and interest expense topped the trillion-dollar level. With the potential for further spending, long-term debt sustainability is an emerging challenge for the incoming administration. October's jobs report showed slowing hiring, impacted by strikes in the aerospace industry and recent hurricanes. Still, employment has expanded mostly over the past 2 years, supporting a resilient labor market. After pandemic-era spikes, inflation has nearly returned to normal levels, hitting 2.1%, close to the Federal Reserve's target. Gas prices are down 35 cents from last year, a notable decline given international tensions. While wage growth has recently outpaced inflation, essential costs, especially in housing and medical care, remain a burden. U.S. adults think an economic collapse is somewhat likely, due to housing market challenges. High housing costs persist, straining budgets for renters and buyers alike. Despite some cooling, shelters remain one of the largest expenses for many Americans. The S&P 500 is near record highs, up 21% in 2023 alone, the best performance in an election year since 1936.
For more, I'm joined by Roberto de la Madrid, media editor and television host in Mexico City. Great to have you with us on the program, Roberto. Now, firstly, how has the U.S. economy performed under President Biden?
Well, I think I have to be first an American citizen, but I am a Mexican citizen. And I can tell you from in the global side, we can see that the Biden administration was really bad. But it is so relative because the pandemic, the COVID and the coronavirus was beating so much U.S. economy. For example, if we compare Donald Trump and Joe Biden, we have rates for 5% inflation in Biden administration and 1.9% in Donald Trump administration. But I think the most important is what happened with the economy surrounding to the U.S. In this case, Mexico, for example, it was really good. If we see the GDP in the world, Mexico surpassed South Korea, Spain, countries for the called first world. Then this is really good for our country. But a lot of friends, a lot of surveys in U.S., they point out that the really Biden was a loss in the economy, above all in the families, the U.S. families. This is what I could say you because I am not a U.S. citizen.
Right, and what are the biggest challenges the new president will inherit? Is the U.S. economy heading towards a recession, as some analysts are suggesting?
Well, I think the most important challenge for the new president, even is Kamala or Donald Trump, is one, I think in my position is China, because China means existential threat for U.S. Like they conceive, like they understand what U.S. have to be in the world. It means that the hegemony of dollar is really beaten by the BRICS and the China initiative. Then I think the first challenge for the new president is China. The second is Iran and the conflict with Israel-Iran. The third is Ukraine, and the fourth is what happened with Latin America and the leverage of China in the new industry in the lithium. I think this is the four challenge or five challenge that we have. About recession, I think there's no a big or so huge problem. Why? Because every recession, in average, every 10 years, we can see a recession in the U.S. history. Then I don't think so it could be a big problem. The problem is China. What happened with China? What happened with the power of production? What happened with the strategies from U.S. to stop the power of China?
Okay, Roberto, we will have to leave it there. That was Roberto de la Madrid there in Mexico City for us. Thank you very much for joining us. Now a quick look at some of the other top business stories from around the world. The International Monetary Fund is expected to begin its review for Egypt's $8 billion loan request on Tuesday. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva is in Cairo to go through details of the anticipated program. Egypt slashed its currency by 40% in March and then slashed subsidies on fuel and bread to qualify for the loan. Indian conglomerate Adani Group has started cutting electricity supplies to Bangladesh over the country's failure to clear its outstanding bills. The company has already cut transmission by half from its 1,600-megawatt coal-fired plant in eastern India. Dhaka has until November 7th to either clear its dues or suggest an instalment plan. TGI Fridays filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection over the weekend. The American casual dining chain blamed fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic for a string of failures to attract more customers. TGI says it will use the bailout to, quote, explore strategic alternatives in order to ensure the long-term viability of the brand. Spain is facing one of the worst floods in recent history. This disaster has left communities stranded and in desperate need of help. Lara Kulachastan has the details.
The floodwaters came fast and fierce. In Spain, the devastating floods have turned people's life upside down. The death toll in Valencia, on Spain's eastern coast, has now reached more than 200. Roads are destroyed, homes lie buried in mud, and families are still searching for loved ones. Entire communities have been cut off from basic needs as rescue teams work tirelessly to help. Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez has sent thousands of troops, police, and emergency workers to the affected regions.
The situation we are living in is tragic. It is dramatic. We are almost certainly talking about the most serious flooding our continent has seen so far this century. I know that there are severe problems and shortages, that there are still collapsed services, municipalities buried by mud, desperate people searching for their relatives, people who cannot access their homes, homes destroyed and buried by mud.
As rescue efforts continue, frustration is growing. They have been focused on pumping water out of underground tunnels and parking garages, where it is feared that people may still be trapped. But many feel the response has been slow, and residents say the warnings came too late. Dozens of volunteers have stepped up, clearing debris and bringing supplies to affected families.
Please, the dead are still in the garages. The families are looking for their relatives and friends. Please come. We only ask for help. I thank all the Spanish people for the solidarity we have had.
The financial toll of this disaster is enormous. Economists have estimated that the total damage could run into billions of dollars. Insurance companies are preparing for substantial losses, with claims expected to rise due to the widespread damage. Many businesses have to shut down, and transportation networks remain disrupted, compounding the economic losses. The Spanish Ministry of Transport has approved an initial emergency fund of about $26 million to fix damaged roads and rail lines. Temporary routes have been set up, but the repair process could take months.
Well, it is terrible for the people who have lost their homes and for those who aren't here and for the entire town, because in the end, you might not have lost your house, but a friend of yours has, someone you know.
Meanwhile, authorities have managed to restore electricity to over 90% of homes. People stand united and resilient in the face of catastrophe. But for many, recovery has just begun, and the emotional toll is immense. And as experts warn of more intense weather patterns, Spain's floods highlight the challenges of a changing climate and the urgent need for better disaster plans. Lara Kılıçarslan, TRT World.
Let's cross now to Perth, Australia and speak with Peter Newman. He's a Professor of Sustainability at Curtin University and a member of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Thanks for being with us, Professor. Now, this is one of Spain's worst floods in recent history. What's the total cost of this disaster expected to be, and how will the government cover the damages?
Well, I think it'd be a brave person that can say how much, because it is huge. It's in the billions of dollars. And that happened because of one rainfall event over 24 hours. There was a month of rain. And that's an extraordinary thing to see happen in such a short time. That's the kind of event that we can expect more and more of, because we haven't acted quickly enough on climate change.
Right, and as you've said there, natural disasters around the world have increased over the last few years. Just how much is climate change costing us?
Well, it is into the trillions, of course, if you can see billions just because of one 24-hour rainfall. You can multiply that out many, many times. Now, it's much bigger than any of the estimates first suggested. Nicholas Stern, back in 2006, first did estimates on this and suggested that the benefits of action were far greater than the costs of inaction. But we haven't taken nearly enough action. That's 18 years ago. And in those 18 years, we've seen increasing costs coming from these events. And they are accelerating faster than the IPCC first thought. It really is out of control now.
And you've written extensively on sustainable cities. What steps should governments take to prevent future crises?
Well, there's a lot that can now be done because it's commercially better, like your story on electric vehicles you just had in Detroit missed out on what they should have been doing to put electric vehicles onto the market. Around the world, solar, batteries and electric vehicles are 80% of the solution to climate change, and that can be done very quickly because they are cheaper. So the economics is working in favour of climate action now. We just have to get on with it. And this is happening, but it's just stopped happening in some places, and America is one of the worst. They're starting to get going now, but it's so slow when we really should have been on top of this years ago.
All right, Professor Peter Newman, we will have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Peru is set to open its biggest port, the Shanghai. The project is a joint venture with China, and the two-way relationship estimated to have trillions of dollars in trade value. Emre Bots has the story.
It's designed to be the gateway to Asia. Shanghai Port is a project with a price tag of almost $3.5 billion, funded and managed by Chinese firm COSCO Shipping, and the largest Chinese investment in a Latin American port. It will be located on the west coast of the country, with experts predicting it will generate $4.5 billion in annual income for the Peruvian economy. Providing direct access to the Pacific Ocean, the port is important as a route connecting Peru with Asia and then Western Europe.
What it does, it brings markets closer, producer and consumer markets together through these connecting ports, these shipping lines, so products arrive in better condition, and in turn, supplies can come and be industrialized in our country or in our region. That impacts other countries as well.
Authorities say 700 jobs will be created, and the port will reduce costs related to shipping by shaving between 15 to 20 days off shipping time from Peru to China. China wants to tap into more of the Latin American market through Peru, accessing economies like Brazil, Chile and Colombia, which account for a total GDP of $2.9 trillion. Critics say that this is just China's way of controlling more of Latin America, but Peruvian authorities deny this.
This is a port facility that, even though it's owned jointly by China and a mining company, at no time does that imply any kind of infringement of sovereignty. This is Peruvian territory.
Whether China has ulterior motives or not, one thing's for sure, Beijing will see dividends stream in for years to come. Emre Boz, TRT World.
Here in Istanbul, Chinese tech giant Huawei has presented its vision of the future, where 5G and AI work together to change our everyday lives. Omar Bakkaloglu has the story.
Today, we are witnessing technology that seems straight out of a sci-fi movie, only it's real life. At an annual event in Istanbul, Huawei showcased what's possible when 5G meets artificial intelligence. The devices on display aren't just smart, they are changing what we think technology can do in our daily lives. This smart driver's seat allows a person here to drive a car thousands of kilometers away. The real magic here is how fast the response is as if I'm physically there. This is just one way that how 5G and AI are redefining how we connect with technology. One of the most compelling features on display is this robotic arm. It can be controlled in real time using a smart glove. The instant response, enabled by 5G, makes it feel as if your hand movements are happening simultaneously with the robot's actions.
For the industrial sectors, especially, we are assuming that the manufacturing sector, healthcare sector, smart transportation sector, and railway sector, energy sector will have a most advantage to get the benefits of the 5G. Because these sectors are mainly rely on the real-time data, processing a lot of real-time data, low latency services, and then a lot of automation.
And other devices catching attention are AI-driven robots that respond faster, think smarter, and adapt in real time. Without the power of 5G to process data, these robots will be limited. No matter how hard I've tried, I can't take down this smart guy. The good news, he's here to help, not fight. From remote surgeries to smart vehicles, the 5G revolution is a leap into a connected world. where intelligent devices are the new norm. And this showcase is proof that the future is closer than we think. Ömer Bakkaloğlu, TRT World, Istanbul.
In northwest Syria, the olive harvest season is more than a tradition. It's a vital source of income and survival. For families in Idlib, where jobs are scarce, this brief season offers a rare opportunity to earn and stock up on essentials before winter arrives. Yusuf Sosar reports.
For Ahmed Al-Jassim, a displaced worker in Idlib, the olive harvest season is a lifeline. Living with his family of 7 in a makeshift camp, Ahmed relies on this season to survive the coming month.
We wait for this season every year. It's our chance to buy basic supplies and pay off some debts. But 1 month of work is not enough for 12 months of needs. Life here is tough, and every day we face the rising cost of even the simplest things like bread.
In Idlib, olives are more than just a crop. They are the economic backbone. With around 10 million olive trees spread over 95,000 hectares, Idlib is Syria's olive hub. From picking and pressing to oil production, the entire process creates thousands of jobs.
The olive season is a blessing. We export oil through Turkey to Gulf and even Europe. This benefits everyone, from farmers to workers at presses. It's a short season, but it keeps people employed, especially those in need.
Despite the hard work, the economic boost is fleeting. With production expected to reach 34,000 tons, there is a surplus for export. But it's only temporary. For the displaced population, the wages from this season help them get by. But they need more stable employment throughout the entire year.
Olive production employs about 25% of our workforce here. With this season, we see a dip in unemployment. Exporting olive oil brings essential revenue to our region, giving economic hope to families struggling to make ends meet.
For Ahmed and others like him, hope comes in small doses. The olive harvest season may offer a month of work, but for many, it's only a fleeting respite in a year of challenges. Yusuf Sosar, TRT World.